Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus, what's taking place in the Middle East. An ICRC convoy has arrived at the first hostage collection point in Gaza. Meanwhile, a convoy of IDF military vehicles have also arrived at Ofer prison, where Palestinian prisoners are expected to be released. In Israel, hundreds have gathered at the Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, eagerly awaiting the return of loved ones held captive by Hamas. Families are cheering, with some holding placards and photos of their missing family members, and are celebrating this long-awaited moment. They've expressed how they've been eagerly awaiting for this day to come. Listen in.
I think everybody's looking, at least here, where people are looking to be close to others, unity, coming together, common goal, common purpose, and hoping we're going to have a better tomorrow.
שמחה והתרגשות באמת עצומה, להרגיש שבאמת אנחנו בתהליך של חזרה לחיים קצת יותר נורמליים וחזרה לשגרה, אני מקווה.
In the meantime, US President Donald Trump is on his way to the Middle East to celebrate this ceasefire and the hostage release deal. He's called his visit very special and has confirmed that the deal is almost finalized. Just a few hours remain up until the hostage prisoner swap will take place. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also expressed relief over this release, particularly the return of Israeli children who've been held hostage, but has also warned of possible future threats from Hamas. Hamas's armed wing has stated that it is committed to the ceasefire agreement and its timeline as long as Israel adheres to their end of the deal as well. They have made it clear that any agreement must include the release of 7 prominent Palestinian leaders from Israeli prisons, including figures like Marwan Barghouti and Ahmad Sadat. All right, viewers, we're in fact getting some live visuals coming in from Gaza. At this point, you can clearly see the mood on the ground. People are hopeful, yet of course eagerly anticipating when exactly this hostage prisoner swap will be taking place. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Ross Feingold, political analyst, joining us from Taipei. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. This is the first phase of the deal. There are negotiations slated to take place later as well. Donald Trump is en route the Middle East. He's slated to chair a very crucial peace summit where 20 world leaders will be gathering. That's not all. We're also learning that he's likely to address the Israeli Knesset as well. What, in your assessment, would this finally pave the way to the end of the war and lasting peace in the Middle East?
The only thing we know for sure at the moment is that there will be a hostage release and a prisoner release. So the Hamas will release the remaining living hostages and the remains of the deceased hostages, and Israel is going to release a substantial number of Palestinians. Anything beyond that, we simply don't know. We don't know how Gaza will be governed, other than there's a proposal for this international organization chaired by President Trump and led by Tony Blair, which would have a mix of Palestinian and multinational technocrats. There's talk about a multinational peacekeeping force, or it would function more like a police force to maintain public order in Gaza. But although Hamas has indicated they've agreed that they're not going to participate in governance, they've also not agreed to surrender their weapons or to fully leave Gaza. And that's a key issue for Israel. And if Hamas thinks they're going to be able to retain their weapons, then the war is very likely going to start again. And Hamas simply has to surrender its weapons and to leave in order for the war to truly end. But with regard to your final question, what does this mean for peace in the Middle East? For decades, people have described the dispute between Israel and the Palestinians as the key to Middle East peace. But this is a volatile region where hostilities begin not related to Israel and the Palestinians. So even if there is a ceasefire that lasts, there's still other hotspots in the region. Hezbollah is still seeking to have armed conflict with Israel in southern Lebanon. Obviously, parts of Syria are unstable, parts of Iraq are unstable, and Iran remains a regional threat. So, no, this is not going to usher in an era of peace throughout the Middle East, even though we hope that in the near term, the war in Gaza will actually come to an end.
And in the meantime, we've also seen fresh demands by Hamas, last-minute demands as well, even as Israel has published a list of the prisoners that they will be releasing. Hamas has called for the release of 7 prominent Palestinian leaders, including figures like Marwan Barghouti and Ahmad Sadat. Now, Israel maintains that they are terror convicts. What do you make of this fresh demand that has come through by Hamas?
That's typical for Hamas. It's easy to criticize Israel and how Israel has approached negotiations or how the previous ceasefire fell apart. But we see Hamas is not really a trustworthy negotiating partner, and they've never been. And they make last-minute demands to try and blow up the deal and then see how the United States reacts and what kind of pressure the U.S. will put on Israel to agree to this last-minute demands. Now, it's easy enough for Israel to release people who may have been involved in planning terrorist activity or have been members of terrorist organizations, people who engaged in riots or rock throwing against Israeli soldiers. But when it comes to releasing prisoners who've actually been involved in the murder of Israeli citizens, that's a very difficult decision for the Israeli political leadership to make. And they've always been very reluctant to do that in some of these past deals. And this is certainly not the first time that there's been such a swap, not just in the current war, but even earlier. But it's a very difficult political decision, and Netanyahu is going to be very reluctant to agree to any last-minute changes, and certainly reluctant to agree to release any Palestinian murderers.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us. In the meantime, I'd like to point out these are live visuals coming in from Israel. You can see countless Israelis have now gathered. They're waving the Israeli flag. Some are smiling as well, eagerly anticipating the return of the hostages, which will take place very, very soon.